From a family perspective, it's so important that we consider what family brings to us and their perspective about what they want. They want to make certain that the most is being done for their child. So when family is difficult or upset, we need to refocus on the child and realize this is why. So if we can refocus ourselves on the child, sometimes some of those differences in our intervention perspectives fall away. We have to realize that families often have to take multiple roles. Until recently, autism was rarely diagnosed appropriately, and even now, sometimes it's a runaround. So initially, they're wondering what's wrong with their child. They have professionals telling them a million different things, and that builds a significant distrust in professionals in the beginning, because they then, as a family person, had to be the diagnostician, and that then says, hey, I know the most about my child. Look at all these fancy professionals. They don't know anything. They've had to be therapists, and that's a vital role, because we know we can't make a difference 2 half hours a week or 2 15-minute sessions a week. We have to involve the parents, so part of their legitimate role is that of therapists, and they certainly have to advocate for their child, because we know that not all educational opportunities are equal for children. I wish that they were. I wish that society and our educational system allowed us to have a strong educational philosophy that allowed all children to access education in the same, in an equal way that was right for their child. But what we know from the educational system is the squeaky wheel gets the grease. And so these parents have had to be strong advocates for their child. So by the time they get to preschool or even kindergarten, these parents, for the most part, have had to fulfill many kind of unnatural and different roles and see professionals differently right away. The other thing is that they've had to deal with an inordinate amount of stress, much more than other disabilities. One, because of the exhaustion, because children with autism reportedly have numerous sleep problems and sleep very poorly, often not getting enough REM sleep, which then interferes with their behavior, and many times parents can't trust that their child will be safe throughout the night, so they have to be ever watchful. And additionally, they have to manage difficult behavior, which not only is hard individually within their home, but provides wedges between themselves and their family, makes it difficult to get babysitters, they get judged from other people in stores. So these are huge stressors in a family. Additionally, as we talked about with the refrigerator mother, there's still that kind of overlying sense of guilt given to parents of children with autism. And also, anytime you're a parent and there's a problem with your child, you start looking for what you might have done wrong. So that also influences things. The influence of other relatives, what other relatives think that they should do. Just give them a good swat on the behind, or you just let them get away with everything. Those kinds of judgment, because when parenting's not going well, the one thing we know of is there is no lack of advice from other people. And there is a higher incidence of depression, and I think for two reasons. One, because of all the stressors we've just talked about right now, and two, because this is a recessive genetic issue, so it only makes sense that there may be more emotional kinds of components in parents of children with autism. So let's look at access to services. We've talked a little bit before that access to services is not always equal, and there are many things that influence that. One is financial constraints. Certainly money opens up things. Having insurance companies that will pay for developmental disabilities is wonderful, but not many do. Access to therapy sometimes depends on diagnosis, and they don't always get an appropriate diagnosis, and even if they do, sometimes that doesn't open up services for them. There are many differences in culture and different cultures and how they look on people with disabilities, and people may choose different forms of treatment based on culture. You know, if they're a very kind of outcomes-oriented culture, they may, put a bigger stock in how many words they can say, but maybe not necessarily whether it's an accurate message. So you have to really look at the different kinds of culture and why they might be drawn to one intervention or another, and also their attitudes toward disabilities. You know, there are some cultures where it's just so incredibly lovely. All children are accepted and go to everything and included no matter what, and other cultures where they just should not be seen and they are shunned. So accesses to services, according to even cultural opinions, are different. There's also a lot of differences in geography and availability. Even in our own state, it's very difficult to get services in some areas like the Upper Panhandle in our state and some more rural areas. And there are also regional trends. There are some places that only do this and other places that only do that. So what kind of service that children get may be driven by whoever came in as a trainer at that particular place, whether or not it's evidence-based. You know, I think I referred to marketing hype a little bit before, but we really need to kind of separate out what is marketing hype. It's okay if it allows us to be aware of something that's really vital and important, but we need to look at what's behind it. Many programs do the same thing. There are multiple paths to get there, but we have to look at what is the theory behind the intervention, and does it have some science behind it. There are lots of advertising campaigns, and if somebody advertises that they can cure autism, they are a snake oil salesman at this point. Run the other way. There are so many ambitious claims because there's lots of money involved. People will pay anything for their child. I've actually had a parent who bought a hyperbaric chamber for their child and ended up losing their home because of it. So schools don't market what they do, and so they see most publicity as bad, because usually when you see something on TV about schools, unfortunately, it is bad. So we need to be better advocates about what we do that is right and really show them. I mean, day after day, people in educational systems toil away to make a difference for children with autism, and we need to make sure that we're better about tooting our own horn, I think.